Where is your focus and attention? Years ago, I remember I was in my very first year of teaching, and it was August, and I was prepping for the year, and so I'm trying to make my syllabus, and I'm trying to get my seating charts all aligned, and I'm trying to figure out what it is I'm going to teach during the course of the year. And I remember it was one of the days leading up to the beginning of the semester. Students hadn't come yet. I had a full day and so much to do, and I got some of those things done, but there was just so much left to be done. And I remember I came home, and in my frustration and annoyance and just like, what am I doing? Brother Paul greets me, and I'm just so frustrated and so bent out of shape, so many things on my mind that I didn't even greet him. I just totally ignored him. And later on that night, he came and corrected me. I'll never forget this, but he said to me, hey, it's going to be okay. Like, I know you're stressed. I know you've got a lot on your plate. I know you've never done this whole teaching thing before, but you're in a situation of success. You actually have so many people around you that can support you and train you and coach you on how to teach. You need to not be afraid. So I was so struck by that capacity, that where do I focus my attention? Brother Paul was very clear. Just focus on the fact that the Lord is going to provide versus on what is lacking or what seems insufficient or what seems incomplete. Genesis chapter 2. God creates man and puts him in the garden and puts trees in the garden, and also says that he puts the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden. And we think about this because we ponder the possibility and the reality of so many trees that God creates. And you think about all of the trees that we know of. We've got evergreens, we've got spruce and fir and cedar and pine trees. And you've got deciduous trees and oak and maple. And then you've got all of these fruit trees. And if you could just imagine all of the fruit that was available to Adam and Eve in the garden from these trees. You've got pears and apples and mangoes and avocados and oranges and pineapple and grapes and grapefruit and clementines. I'm just getting hungry thinking about all of the possibilities of what God has given. And this reality that God in His goodness gives abundance. There are not just 10 trees, there are not just 20 trees, there are thousands upon thousands of trees in the Garden of Eden that God gives to Adam and Eve because He is a God of abundance. And He gives them all of these trees as gifts, saying you can freely eat of any of these trees. And He also says, this one tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, don't eat of that tree, because if you eat of that one tree, you will die. This is the question. Where do we focus our attention? Is it on the abundance of what God is giving, of the thousands and thousands of the trees, or just on the one thing that we can't partake in? I think this is not just true of the abundance that God places us in our lives, but even of the way that we see His commandments. If we can consider this, before sin, there is just this one commandment. Don't eat of this one tree. And I would say for us in our day and age, after sin, after the fall, God gives us 10 commandments saying, just these 10 things I don't want you to do. That you observe these laws and commandments, but the rest, so to speak, is up to us. What we do, what we speak, what we say, He gives us so much freedom to explore and discover what is the best way to serve Him and to love Him and to be happy in this life. And it's just these 10 things that we're supposed to follow or not do. And I think this is the same thing. Where do we focus our attention? Where do we focus our energy? Do we focus on what it is that we can't do? What it is that is prohibited from us? Or do we instead focus on the ways and the blessings and the opportunities that are in front of us? The question, I think, remains, why does God put the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden? Like, why put a tree among thousands and thousands of trees that you can eat from? Why put one and say, don't eat of that one? Why even put it there at all? This, I think, is the question that we have to really wrestle with. And I think it's this. God puts the tree as an invitation to say, every time you look at this tree, this tree that you cannot eat of, that I'm telling you to follow and obey me. Don't eat of this. You are to be reminded of my fatherhood. You are to be reminded of my providence. You are not God. You are simply a creature. And that means your freedom is limited. But remember, you follow and know a God who loves you and provides for you. So that one tree to say, this is the tree that I can't have, this is what I can't partake in, that's to remind us of, I am not God. But God is my Father, and He has given me an abundance, thousands upon thousands upon thousands. And I think this is the invitation for us, is that we have to look at what it is that God prohibits and says, don't do those things as, do I trust my Father here? I would argue in every situation in our lives that we find ourselves experiencing a limitation or a lack or a poverty is an opportunity for us to turn to the Father and trust in Him, because He's good. And even though there might be this poverty, this lack, really in this is an opportunity to say, somehow, some way, my God is going to provide for me, and I need not worry, and I need not fret, and I need not focus on what it is I can't do, but instead look to God in His abundance. So may Jesus be your light and your truth and your grace. May He show you the ways that He is being abundantly generous to you. And may we focus all of our attention and our energy on that. Thank you. God bless.